There was a kind and beautiful girl named Cinderella. She lived in a quaint little cottage with her wicked stepmother and two cruel stepsisters, Anastasia and Drizella, who treated her as a servant in her own home. Every day, from sunrise to sunset, Cinderella worked tirelessly, cleaning, cooking, and tending to their every need. Despite her hardships, Cinderella remained gentle and hopeful, finding solace in the little creatures that visited her in the garden. Birds and mice were her friends, and she often sang to them, dreaming of a better life. Cinderella's father had been a kind and wealthy man, but after his untimely death, her stepmother took control of the household. She squandered the family fortune on lavish gowns and extravagant parties, while Cinderella was relegated to a tiny, dusty attic room. The stepmother and stepsisters wore fine clothes and attended grand events, while Cinderella was left in rags, her only companions the animals who loved her dearly. One sunny morning, a royal messenger arrived with exciting news. The king had declared that a grand ball would be held at the palace, and all the young maidens in the kingdom were invited. The prince was seeking a bride, and this ball would help him find his future queen. The whole kingdom buzzed with anticipation, and Cinderella's stepsisters were no exception. "Oh, I wish I could go to the ball," Cinderella exclaimed as she helped her stepsisters prepare. They mocked her mercilessly. "You go to the ball. Look at you. You have nothing to wear. Now get back to your chores," Drizella sneered, flicking a handful of ash at her. On the day of the ball, Cinderella worked tirelessly, brushing her stepsisters' hair, fixing their dresses, and polishing their shoes. As they left for the palace in their fine gowns, Cinderella felt a wave of despair. She ran to the garden, tears streaming down her face. Just then, a warm, glowing light appeared before her. It was her fairy godmother. "Why are you crying, dear?" she asked kindly. Cinderella explained her wish to go to the ball. The fairy godmother smiled warmly. "You shall go to the ball, my dear." With a wave of her wand, the fairy godmother transformed a pumpkin into a magnificent carriage, mice into horses, and a rat into a coachman. Then she turned Cinderella's tattered dress into a stunning gown, complete with delicate glass slippers. The gown was a shimmering blue, adorned with intricate patterns of silver thread that glistened in the light. Her hair was styled into an elegant updo, and a sparkling tiara rested gently upon her head. "Remember, you must leave the ball before midnight, for the spell will break," she warned. As Cinderella arrived at the palace, the grandeur of the event took her breath away. The palace was adorned with twinkling lights and beautiful flowers, and music filled the air. Cinderella's entrance caused a stir among the guests. She walked down the grand staircase with grace and poise, her glass slippers twinkling with each step. The prince, standing at the bottom of the staircase, was immediately captivated by her. He extended his hand, and Cinderella accepted, feeling as if she were in a dream. Throughout the night, the prince and Cinderella were inseparable. They danced gracefully across the ballroom floor, their movements perfectly in sync. As they danced, they spoke of their dreams and hopes, finding in each other a kindred spirit. The prince was enchanted not just by Cinderella's beauty, but by her kindness and warmth. The other guests watched in awe and envy, as the mysterious girl and the prince seemed to float across the floor. The ballroom was a sight to behold. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a magical glow over the room. The walls were draped in rich fabrics, and the tables were laden with delicious foods and sparkling drinks. Cinderella marveled at the opulence, But what truly captivated her was the prince's gentle demeanor and genuine interest in her. They laughed and talked, sharing stories and dreams, and Cinderella felt a connection she had never known before. As the evening progressed, Cinderella lost track of time. She was so enraptured by the prince and the magical night that she nearly forgot the fairy godmother's warning. Just as the clock began to strike midnight, Cinderella remembered. Panic set in. "I must go," she cried, pulling away from the prince. He looked at her in confusion and desperation, not understanding why she was leaving. Cinderella rushed out of the ballroom, her heart pounding. In her haste, she lost one of her glass slippers on the grand staircase. She didn't stop to retrieve it, knowing she had to get away before the magic wore off. She ran to her carriage, which sped away just as the final chime of midnight echoed through the night. The carriage turned back into a pumpkin, the horses back into mice, and Cinderella found herself once again in her tattered clothes, standing alone on the empty road. The next morning, the prince declared that he would marry the girl whose foot fit the glass slipper. He sent his servants throughout the kingdom, searching for the girl who had captured his heart. The servants visited every house, and at each one, hopeful young women tried to squeeze their feet into the delicate slipper, but it was always too small or too large. When the servants arrived at Cinderella's house, the stepsisters eagerly tried to fit into the slipper, but their feet were too large. They pushed and shoved, hoping to be the one, but it was no use. Cinderella, who had been watching from the shadows, timidly stepped forward. "May I try?" she asked. Her stepmother laughed cruelly. Don't be ridiculous." But the servant insisted, and as Cinderella placed her foot into the slipper, it fit perfectly. The servants rejoiced and took Cinderella to the palace, where the prince was waiting. Upon seeing her, the prince knew he had found his true love. Cinderella and the prince were married in a grand celebration that lasted for days. The kingdom rejoiced, and Cinderella's stepmother and stepsisters were left to ponder their wickedness as they watched from the sidelines. Cinderella's kind heart and gentle spirit brought joy and peace to the kingdom. And so, Cinderella's dreams came true, reminding us all that no matter how tough life gets, kindness and hope can lead to a magical future. The prince and Cinderella ruled with compassion and fairness, and they lived happily ever after, spreading joy throughout the land. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more magic.